Hello, welcome to Dad Asks Mums with me, Al Booth. I am a dad of Alfie, who's 5, and Sienna, who's 3, and also the partner of Kerry, whose age I'm not going to tell you. Because you know what? As a dad, I think there is so much that we don't understand about parenting from a mum's point of view, but I do understand that you don't go on a podcast that can be heard by anyone and reveal your partner's age. I know that much. But as you'll hear with today's guest, Clio Wood, there is still so much that I don't know. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about finding out things from a mum's perspective that would hopefully make me a better partner. And, you know, it's just opening up conversations, isn't it? That maybe you just don't have time to have anyway because you've got kids. And they don't really allow for that. Not that much. Now, before we get into today's guest, Clio Wood, just to let you know, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can drop me an email, al@albooth.co.uk, or you can go on to Twitter and Instagram. They're the socials I use. I've got you know when you sign up for socials and you can't even remember the password and can't even remember Tumblr, is that still a thing? I don't know. Anyway, so Instagram and Twitter @DadAsksMums. Also, there's a section of the show where I say, as a mum, what would you like to ask me as a dad? And also as a mum, what do you wish that I, as a dad, had asked you? Now, if you've got answers to those questions, you can go on speakpipe.com/DadAsksMums and leave a voice note. And then that would get featured in the next episode.
Now for the next.
Before I introduce the guest properly, should we have a listen about what you're going to hear in this episode?
Dad Ask Mums. Dad Ask Mums.
A lot of us are having children later now, and then you're still in the postnatal phase when peri-menopause comes along. It just feels like this really taboo, dirty thing, whereas actually it's very natural and something of real joy. If you're not communicating, how are you expecting this long-term relationship to be in any positive, healthy place? I want dads to ask mums in general what their other half's love language is.
So on this episode, I'm talking to the owner of Wellbeing Retreats for the Family, author of Get Your Mojo Back, and Mum-of-2, of course, most importantly. It's Clio Wood. Welcome to Dad Asks Mums.
Hi, Al. It's so good to meet you.
Really good to meet you. I'm really pleased you could do this because it's just multifaceted. The retreats, the well-being, the calmness, that is definitely something that we're contemplating in our family, just how to keep kids calm. But also, we've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old who don't sleep through the night. So, you know, Get Your Mojo Back is everything. So
yeah,
this is free therapy, essentially.
Oh, well, I hope so. I hope to be helpful anyway. No, thank you very much for having me. No, I absolutely agree. I mean, part of the reason that I started my retreat company AndBreathe in the first place was because I really needed to breathe, to take some time for myself, and there wasn't really the space to do it. It's quite difficult to actually find space for you physically and mentally to feel well and to feel strong when you're at home all the time, surrounded by toys, you know, being, jumped on by a child, like you've got a baby that's always crying, the laundry pile is getting higher and higher without even doing anything to it. And it can be really difficult to reset habits and feel like you again as a parent in your new identity.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone has the opportunity to do that, but I definitely felt like that was something that I wanted and needed in order to really cope with this traumatic birth that I'd been through, my postnatal depression. You know, we were really struggling in our relationship as well. And that's kind of where it came from, because I was like, there's nothing out there for this, which is why I created AndBreathe. Because it's really bloody hard to be a parent. So, as I'm sure you can relate.
Oh, yeah. And you kind of, you hear that a lot, don't you? Oh, it's not easy, it's hard work, but it's actually hard work.
Yeah, totally.
Then the retreat thing, the only place you can escape really is the bathroom.
Yeah.
But once they start toddling, they know you're in there. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, oh, what?
Toddling, and also it's just a shout when they know your mummy. Obviously, it kind of goes from like mama to like mama to mummy, and when it hits mummy, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's not mummy, it's mummy. It always goes up at the end.
Yeah,
mummy, daddy. I'm sitting next to you. Just ask me. You don't need to shout.
Much as I know that this is because you love me, I do need a little bit of space sometimes. But yeah, and that's really hard because everything that you get in the postnatal period, as I'm sure you guys have experienced as well, is really focused on the kids, is focused on the baby, which obviously very, very important. You know, we need to keep them alive and well. But what about you being alive and well as well?
And there's guilt attached to that, isn't there? Because like you say, you know, it's all about the child. Everything, even now, mine are 2 and 5, and it should still be all about the child. And you feel guilty if you think, like you say, I just need a bit of me time.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, actually, because I know that we talk about mum guilt a lot, and that's definitely something that I feel. But I'm so interested in the kind of dad's perspective, because my partner, I know he feels it, but it feels like it's softer than my guilt. Like, I really feel like if I'm not doing a good job, this is like my whole identity and I'm failing in society. Whereas, you know, he does feel the guilt, I'm sure. And I know because we've talked about it, but it doesn't feel like it's as crushing for him.
That's kind of what this podcast is about. It's that thing of going, oh, my partner's fine, you know, she's okay, we both feel this together. But yeah, it's getting that opposite sort of angle on it.
It's time for a question.
Right, the question I always like to ask, first of all, is what was the last conversation you had with your children?
So I have an 8-year-old and a 1-year-old. The 8-year-old, obviously very good at talking, extremely cerebral conversations sometimes, like quite surprising what she comes out with, you know, philosophical points of view and things. The 1-year-old is definitely at the shouty, just got a few words stage. But we had a whole big conversation about whether she was going to get in her buggy this morning. And that was the last thing that we did, because she was like, no, I want to go on the bike. She was determined. It was about 5 minutes of pure just bike.
They're strong, aren't they, as well?
Oh my God, so strong.
Superhuman strength at that age.
Yeah, it's the planking when you're trying to get them into their car seat or the buggy that I really struggle with. Like, this core is amazing. Like,
yes.
you want to be giving some lessons in the strength of this core.
That's so true. And what about your 8-year-old? What was the last chat you had with them?
Well, so she's actually, school strike today, exciting stuff. So she's gone into the office with my husband. And so it was about whether she had enough snacks to see her through the day, which is very important, obviously. So, she's cleared the cupboard out of our naked bars and, has a number of workbooks and sticker books that she's taken with her, plus iPads, obviously, and fully charged headphones. So we shall see at the end of the day how successful that trip was.
Dad, ask mums.
So let's talk about your retreat, which is just because it's for families as well, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. So basically, I wanted to have a fitness retreat that was appropriate for the postnatal period and mums who'd had babies, because a lot of fitness retreats are geared very much around weight loss, doing loads of burpees, up at 6, and it isn't really geared to rehabilitation or functional fitness or actually taking care of the body postnatally, because it's been through a lot. And dads have also been through a lot physically as well. They're also sleep deprived. You may have not been able to do as much exercise as previously and in the new parent phase.
Yeah, that's the excuse.
So what I really wanted was to be able to go away on a fitness and a wellbeing retreat that I knew that I was going to get properly taken care of and I was going to get the right advice. I also wanted to be able to take my baby, because I was still breastfeeding. I wasn't ready to leave her for a week or a weekend. And I also wanted my husband to come, because I was like, well, this is kind of a holiday. I don't want to go away without you. Why don't we try this as an idea? And we did a friends and family one first, and that went pretty well. And then we did our first civilian one. And it kind of grew from there, really. So we did 1 in the first year, 3 in the second year, 6 in the third year. This was before lockdown, obviously, because everything changed then, and we'll get to that in a minute. So that was my journey doing that. And so I started to write and to speak and to kind of champion women's health, particularly in the postnatal and parenthood phase, and then latterly in the peri-menopause as well, because a lot of us are having children later now, and then you're still in the postnatal phase when peri-menopause comes along.
Right, yeah, the two sort of cross over, I guess.
They do, yeah, and it's a lot about, you know, so a lot of the symptoms can be very similar. So you're sleep deprived, you're not sleeping very well, you've got massive brain fog, your hormones are all over the place. So some of your pelvic floor issues might be similar in the perimenopause phase as your muscle tone starts to deteriorate as well. So it felt like an obvious transition for us. And that has been a really good thing as well, because I think the conversation around the postnatal period when I started wasn't really happening in terms of self-care and that fourth trimester and, you know, postnatal fitness and maternal mental health. And it has really increased, I think, over the past 8 years. And now in the past year or two, we've started to hear the conversation around the menopause and the perimenopause as well. So I think it feels like a good journey for me and the things that I care about and my passion points as well. So
do you know, it's really interesting. I think this is probably more to do with the work I do, like, you know, journalist or podcaster, or that I hear about perimenopause and the fourth trimester. But there's something that typically you don't, certainly with the trimesters, you know, there's the first bit, which is the morning sickness and all that, and then the middle bit, which I always reference this. The only bit I knew about that was watching Friends, where Rachel got really horny in the middle bit. And I was like, I cannot wait for that. It doesn't happen. It's almost as if Friends isn't a documentary. And then obviously the third bit, but then you can, and then it's like, we've got the baby, dumph, that's it. You know, you've come, pregnancy's gone. Now it's the next bit. So you do forget about that. And perimenopause bit is new.
Yeah, I think even the terminology is still little understood. You know, the menopause is one day. It's the day that is 12 months after your last period. And everything leading up to that, so everything that we refer to as the menopause or menopause symptoms is actually the perimenopause. Like, it's kind of in and around that day. You know, it might be 10 years long for some people. It really depends how your body's journey takes place, how your hormones start to change, you know, what speed your body is going to kind of take that journey to having its last period and not having another one again. And that's where all the symptoms come from, is all about that hormonal change and that kind of roller coaster, really, in terms of it winding down and going into its next phase.
So the menopause is no, because I'm really, this is why I'm doing the podcast. Like with your retreat, that was always how I saw my parenting, and now it's like, children, why aren't you fitting into my preconceived idea of the parent I was going to be? And whereas, Kerry's very more pragmatic, which is why we work. I'm the dreamer, she's the pragmatist, and somewhere in between we meet and have a wild, it's a brilliant time. But I didn't realise the menopause. So it's one day.
Yeah.
So you have your period and then you wait for the next one on that day and it doesn't come. And then you go, I mean, even now mums are just going, you're an idiot.
Mum's out there being like, no. Your period comes once a month, usually.
Yeah, I'm on that. I know that much. Yeah.
So say I had my last period this January. Or say I had a period this January. It didn't come in February. It didn't come in March. It didn't come for the rest of the year. And then it got to next January and I still hadn't had a period. That day, 12 months from my last period, would be my menopause. It's as in the pause in your menses.
Right. Yes.
Because in the lead up to that day, you might, you know, your periods do get very much out of sync. Well, again, depends who you are and how your body reacts. But you might have a period, you might have another one 2 weeks later, you might not then have another one for 6 months, but then they might go back to normal for a little bit. And then it might happen again. So, you know, over the course of that time, in general, what happens is they start to become less and less regular. So, you know, maybe you're going to have 3 periods in a year for a couple of years. So you haven't actually had your menopause, but you're still in the perimenopause phase because you know it's not your kind of regular month. And all of this is driven by your hormones. So that's what sends the signals around your body, essentially, to be like, right, release the egg now, have your period if it hasn't been fertilized, all of those different things.
Wow.
Yeah, your face.
I know, because I'm just absorbing it all. There's so many questions, but there's so many questions. I should just know this. Men should know this. We should be taught this at school. You know, at school, I don't know what it's like now, but you'd get separated into 2 different, right, boys are going to be told not how to get someone pregnant, and girls, you've got a whole thing to deal with. We should all be in the same.
Yeah, I completely agree. And sex education leaves a lot to be desired, I think, even now.
This is another topic for another time, but yeah, you're absolutely right. So you've got 12 months of kind of knowing that you're menopausal without the confirmation, essentially.
Yeah, so you could kind of be on tenterhooks, as it were. But I mean, you do get a lot of time to get to know yourself, I suppose, because, for some people the perimenopause is 5 years, some people it might be 10 years. So we're all different, and it really depends on what your body is going to decide to do, and how you choose to embrace and deal with that as well, because obviously your fitness, your mental health, your nutrition all have a really big part to play in how your body reacts to it as well, and how you kind of come through it, and whether you decide to take HRT or not. So yeah, there's a lot. So it's a big topic.
I feel like, so it was parents' evening, the day recording, last night was parents' evening for Alfie, my 5-year-old, with maths and English. And I feel essentially this is, as he is with maths and English, I'm at his learning level with menopause.
Do you know, I think it's really incredible. So my husband and I are very open about mental health, physical health. Obviously, I've written a book about sexual well-being. So we've had lots of discussions about that. And a lot of it is based on kind of my journey. And one of his good friends has had similar issues within their relationship between him and his wife. But her approach is very much, I will deal with this. I will tell you when it's fixed. They don't talk about anything at all. And I think it is really important for us to understand each other and where we're coming from, because otherwise how can you support each other properly? And it goes both ways, right? So this is my bandwagon. I'm like, if you're not communicating, how are you expecting this long-term relationship to be in any positive, healthy place?
Now for the next bit.
This is Daddy's Disc of Dilemma. So I've got a gold cake base on my Shedio wall with wooden numbers attached that seem to have come from kids' games that I may have nicked. Each number correlates to a different dilemma we're having. Funnily enough, one that matches the guest. Take it away, kids.
Daddy's Disc of Dilemma.
Go, giving it a spin, and because of me not being very good at DIY, the nail isn't in the middle, so it'll always come up between 3 and 4.
At least it stayed on the wall. I thought you were going to say it often falls off the wall.
Number 4, again. Right, so my dilemma, which ties in lovely with your book, Get Your Mojo Back, is we have a 5-year-old called Alfie who invariably creeps into our bed at some point every single night. Between 1 and 3 usually it happens, which is fine because we're asleep. That's not too bad. And we've got a 2-year-old who just screams out, doesn't necessarily wake up, just screams, which is not conducive to,
Yeah.
How do you get your mojo back?
Oh, that's a big question, isn't it?
It is, but it's one I really, really would like to know the answer to.
And no, all joking aside, that this is exactly why I wrote the book. Are they predictable? Sounds like the 5-year-old kind of comes in at about the same time.
Yes, well, I say that. So quite often what will happen, if I take him to bed, then I'll lie with him till he's got to sleep. He won't go to sleep on his own, so I'll take him to bed, lie with him for a bit, and then I get up and come down. Kerry will take him to bed about 7:30, 8 o'clock and fall asleep, and then I'll go in and go, Kerry, do you want to get up? And she's like, and so that's it. So, because if Kerry's in bed with him, he doesn't need to get up. But if we're in bed together, he'll come in, between 1:30 and 3 or whatever.
Okay, fine. So, if you guys are on the same page about the importance of sleep, so if it's more important that he sleeps through and that you both get a decent night's sleep, that I think is first of all, like, don't discount that as like a positive. I think it's really important that you guys communicate as well one communicates as well around where you both are in terms of, look, I miss having that time together, because then you at least are on the same page about, okay, fine, then maybe we need to look into the sleeping situation, like whether your little one is able to go through the night on his own, whether obviously now, because he's a little bit older, you can then start to kind of talk about his habits and be like, look, can we get you a teddy bear or a toy? Or if you wake up, can you do a little bit of reading? Or, all of these like a little bit more practical steps. I know that that's not going to be an overnight solution, but I think just something to bear in mind as well.
I had visions then of you going, you need to have the conversation, which is, look, Mummy and Daddy want to have sex. So you can't come into our bed. I was like, I'm not entirely sure we're ready for that level of honesty explanation. But
yeah, okay. When I say you could do that, what I mean is, so we've always been really open with our daughter. You know, we were talking about it at 2, not like daddy's penis goes in mummy's vagina, but like this is what happens when people want to make a baby, and also it's really pleasurable, and just talking about it in terms that they can understand. It doesn't have to be graphic, but it can be open and honest because it's a part of life. It's how we all got here. It's something that they will enjoy and take part in later in their lives as well. So
yeah.
And otherwise it just feels like this really kind of taboo, dirty thing, whereas actually it's very natural, and you know, it can be something of real joy, and is how we make bigger families, and you know, it's how we reproduce. So there's lots of really nice things about it that I think we don't naturally associate it with. We just kind of panic and go, oh God, well, you know, I'll leave it to the school, and like, you know, they'll work it out by themselves. And I think so many of us were brought up with that. I think we're really scared to kind of break that cycle as well, because we don't know how to do it. We've never been shown how to have that conversation properly. So
do you know, with the weird thing as well, sorry to jump in, but just you saying that, the weird thing is they have no idea why that would be awkward. And so you're also instilling that, aren't you?
Yeah.
And at the moment, yeah, they're completely carte blanche with it. So...
And also, look, so what I'm saying is more that, look, mummy and daddy need to have a bit of time together as well. We love you very much, but we also love each other. And, you know, to keep loving each other and not being really, really annoyed by the other person, we need to actually spend time with each other. And at 5, I think that's actually, they can start to understand that concept of you guys as a unit, separate to you guys as a family unit. You know, just even having that like gentle conversation on the side can be really powerful. I'm not saying it's going to help change things overnight. If you start having that conversation now, over the next few years, he's going to be like, okay, yeah, fine. Like, I get this. Mummy and daddy do need some alone time together. I mean, I don't know about you, but actually our 8-year-old really hates it when we go out together on a date night, which she knows she shouldn't. But I think, you know, even having that conversation with her, so that's something that we reinforce all the time, is like, look, I know you don't like it when we go out together, but actually we need to spend time without you. We love you very much. We also really want to provide a loving and safe and positive environment as a family and as a positive home to be in. We can't do that if we're not in a good place together.
Yeah.
On a practical level, have you thought about date days? You know, so we obviously kind of think, oh, you know, bedtime, nighttime, that's when we're going to have sex. But if you know, making time for intimacy and a date during the day can also be really powerful, and on a practical level really works, because okay, you've got one kid in school, you've got the other kid shipped off to somewhere, you've got an empty house, so you don't necessarily have to go out to a restaurant like you would in the evening, and even just having lunch together, you know, if your wife is working from home, or you know, on one of her days when she's not working, you know, you make some time and you do that during the day, and also it means you're not as tired as you would be in the evening.
Yes, that's a brilliant idea.
It feels a little bit illicit to be doing it during the day as well.
No, I know what you mean.
And that can actually be a really nice thing to share together as well. Like, it's a bit of we had a like secret time together, and that was really nice. I would sow the seeds of this first, because
we don't want a third.
No, not those seeds. The thing I think that people don't really understand, men or women, is that actually our sex drives function quite differently. So women often need to be able to feel desire mentally before their bodies get aroused. Often with men, they can do it the other way around. So they're aroused before they're actually like in the situation, if you see what I mean. And so quite often my husband will be like going to bed and, you know, start to initiate sex. And I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. I haven't seen you for days. Like, you know, you haven't kissed me. We've barely said hello. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. But just hasn't really recognized or hasn't really realized that that is an issue, because, you know, he's been thinking about it, or has kind of, you know, his body's just kind of gone, oh, okay, right, I'm quite turned on now. Whereas actually I need a lot more headspace in order to like switch off from all of like the to-do list, the mental load, and I need a while to get into that headspace in order to be ready. So no matter where you are, I think that's a really interesting point to get right between the two of you. But also for like the lunchtime thing, like setting it up in advance in order to really like build that anticipation, and for the both of you to know where it is and where you're coming from is really key as well, so that you kind of think of it in a really positive way, as opposed to like, oh right, he's made me cheese on toast for lunch, I wonder why he's done that.
Works every time.
Yeah, exactly, right? That might be a nice option for you.
Yes, I very much like that idea. Lunchtime loving.
What the actual heck?
What is the one question that you, as a mum, would like to be asked by me, or was hoping that I would ask as a dad?
I want dads to ask mums in general what their other half's love language is.
You may need to explain this.
Yeah. I was like, oh, hang on. No, he doesn't know what I'm talking about.
I thought I'd done so well, and I still know nothing.
Right. So we all communicate our love for another person in slightly different ways. So those are things like words. So actually, telling someone that you love them. Things like acts of service. So doing the washing up for someone, bringing them, a cup of tea in bed in the morning, those sorts of things. There are gifts, gift giving, bringing some flowers home after work. You're in a coffee shop and you saw this donut they might like, you bring that home for them. So there are 5 of those. Obviously, I now can't remember the last 2 because I'm a mum and my brain is fried. But having that conversation with your other half can be an absolute game changer in terms of whether or not you're resonating with the other person or not. Because they might be like, well, I never want to have sex with you because you never show me that you love me. I'm taken for granted around here. All I'm doing is looking after the children and trying to, get new clients all the time. Like, I am absolutely slammed and you just don't appreciate any of that. And you'll be like, I tell you I love you all the time. And she'll be like, yes, but you never bring me flowers. You never think of me when you're out. And I always think of you when I'm in a shop and I see something you might like and I buy it for you. And you're like, well, I don't want that thing. Why do you keep bringing things home to me? Like, why are you spending more money? We're on a budget now. So then your love language is obviously just telling, it's words. It's actually like communicating that. Her love language is gifts or like little acts of service of where she needs to be demonstrated, whereas you might need it to just be said all the time and affirmed in a conversation. So you both think you're expressing love and you're trying to express connection and appreciation for the other person, but the other person isn't hearing it. So without being too woo-woo about it, I think that can actually be a really positive thing. If you can get that right, if you can understand where the other person is coming from and try to be a little bit more on their level, and also for the other person to be like, well, actually, this is why I don't do it as much. It doesn't come naturally to me because that's how I receive love messages. It can be a really powerful thing for you to understand and connect better with the other person. From that comes better emotional understanding, communications flow better. You might feel more loving and touching and caring, physical touch towards the other person. And from that, your sensual identity flourishes and your sexual life flourishes as well. So more intimacy, more pleasure. I always think of sex as this ripple effect. You have good sex, you're in a good mood the next morning, and then you're happier, and then you're nicer to each other, and you're nicer to the kids, and you don't shout at them when they smash the jar of jam on the floor, whatever it is, and so it has this really nice ripple effect of okay, one good thing has happened, and then you might have sex more. So I don't know, it feels like this virtuous circle that if you can actually get it right, and if you can kind of connect with each other a little bit more and a little bit more deeply, it's a really positive thing all around as well. So you're not just having sex for you, you're doing it for the whole world. Okay.
Wasn't that a song in Grease too, I think?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's just put a lot of pressure on, to be honest. But
No, partly what I mean is, we all kind of have this guilt, just referring back to right at the beginning of our conversation, we have this guilt about like taking care of ourselves and taking time for ourselves, particularly as parents, whether it's for us or whether it's for our relationship. But actually, my point is more that don't need to feel guilty about that, because what's good for you is actually good for the rest of the family and everyone who's around you as well.
Yeah, bigger picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the podcast is called Dad Asks Mums, but as a mum, what would you like to ask me, a dad?
Oh gosh, such a difficult question, that one, because there's so many things that I want to ask. To be fair, I think my husband and I are quite lucky because we are quite open about this sort of thing. But the one that always gets me is like, why are your looking skills so bad? My husband, certainly his dad as well, and my dad, they'll go and look for something. Fuck me, they can't find it. I'll send them back like 3 times. No, it's definitely in there. Literally, I will go in and pick it off the shelf. I just don't understand. Like, there's obviously a disconnect between...
It's got to go back to caveman days, doesn't it? There'll be a reason for it. We're too busy looking for mammoths or something.
Exactly, peripheral vision, not what's in front of you.
I'd love to help with that, but I do. Yeah, I boast that in our household, I'm the finder of things.
Oh, really? Oh, well, see, there you go. So what is your approach towards looking for things, and what makes you so much better at it?
My approach is always look on the floor first. And it works every single time. Where's Alfie's school bag? Have we looked on the floor? It's over there. Where's Sienna's top? Have we looked at... Yes. It was meant to be put away with the washing. I didn't get to do it. I put it on the back of the chair. It's fallen on the floor. So yeah, that's the important thing to know. As men, we won't have put it away. So...
Let's have a song for bed.
The way we end the day at home is I have Sienna, I go into her room and I sing songs that actually, I'll have to play it actually, because the other day, I was at work, Kerry was doing a bath with Sienna, and Sienna just started singing Dock of the Bay in the bath.
It's the dock of the bay,
And I've been singing that to her since she was a baby. So just to get her off to sleep, I sing that. I sing Rainbow Connection by Kermit from the Muppets. So I always sing to the kids to get them to sleep. So I thought the way to end the podcast is to ask you, is there a song that you sing to your children? And can I have a few bars, please?
Yeah, you could, because actually I rate myself as quite a good singer, but I don't sing to them. Basically, my first daughter never had any problems sleeping. 3 months, found her thumb, put her down, slept. Was still napping at like 3.5, 4 for 2 hours in the middle of the day. Second daughter, terrible sleeper, but we had to be like quite, hard line about it. And so unfortunately we went through the like pick up, put down, all of that, and then basically went hardcore. And then now she sleeps through. So I could do Baby Shark because...
Oh yeah, that's what everyone wants to hear. Yeah.
Well, that's obviously not a lullaby, but it is something that my 1-year-old started singing yesterday and got really excited about it when we finally realised what she was trying to sing.
Oh yeah, but there was a happy times, aren't they? I remember that with Alfie.
Oh, yay.
Oh, well, Clio, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed that, and I've learned a lot. Whether or not I remember it and put it into practice.
Oh, well, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And you can obviously find a lot more information in my book, and it's all about communicating between me and my husband as well. So I know how hard it is. I get it, and it can get better.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, isn't it, really? It's all good fun. And when you're fortunate enough to do it together, it is brilliant. Thank you so much. And maybe we'll see you at one of your retreats.
Yeah.
I think the kids would call chaos and ruin it, but I would love it.
Bye-bye.
There you go, Dad Asks Mums with Clio Wood as the guest. I had no idea when I chatted to Clio about coming on the show that we were going to talk peri-menopause, but now I feel I know more than I could ever know and certainly ever ask for, so I'm really grateful for that. Not as grateful as Kerry's going to be when I finally address that, when that day comes, all over it. I'm going to be, oh, what a joy to be around, but she can't wait. You can find out more about Clio, especially her book and her retreat. Her book is Get Your Mojo Back. I think you're learning that podcast, some very useful tips in that. Whether or not the children comply with it, we'll find out. And also her retreat, AndBreathe Wellbeing.com, which just sounds amazing. It sounds like it's the sort of place, you know, in your head where you envisage going on family holidays, it's all relaxed, and then reality is not the same. That sounds like the two might just meet up. Who knows? If you'd like to be on the show, then please, that'd be great. The whole point is that I talk and get a mum's perspective on parenting and what it's like to be a mum. You can email me, al@albooth.co.uk if you'd like to come on. Or I've got something nice, it's very exciting. I've got the socials Twitter and Instagram @DadAsksMums, and also speakpipe.com, so you can leave me a voicemail, speakpipe.com/DadAsksMums. There you go. You can do that. Leave a voicemail. It might be on the next episode. Until then, thank you for listening and take care. Oh, here's my daughter with where you can get the other episodes.
You can get this wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for listening. Come back soon. Turn it off.
Oh dear.